So in this video, we are recapping the end of the 2041 season. And after the start of the season was very successful, which you did see in the last video, we are going to have a look at the summer transfers, then have a dive into the remaining fixtures of the league, and have a look at the cup. We did win the cup last year for the first time in a few years. Can we go and do that again? Let's head over to the Football Manager screen and check that out.
This is just an intro, you better believe it. Jesus, that was bad. Well, welcome to the series.
So here we are on the Football Manager screen, and welcome to this episode. If you are enjoying the series, make sure you do go down and drop a like and comment below. Let me know that you're enjoying it. It does just help the algorithm. More people that do like, subscribe, comment, and all of that jazz, obviously. So, the summer transfers. First off, the out. The first one is Roy Andre Menseth, who, when he was 15-16, was in and around the first team and one of the regulars, but he dropped off the last year or two. So I've ended up sending him out on loan to play in the Championship for Birmingham City, and it's been really, really successful. He's playing games, but also he has now been capped by Norway since joining them 3 times, and is improving, and I do think this kind of loan deal has been really good. He's there until the end of the English season, but I do plan on actually calling him back over this winter window because I just think he's ready to get more of a starting position in the first team for us. Come through the academy, capped by the national team now, and improving after a loan in England. I have sent out our youngster Toomey on loan to Velge in Denmark. 15 games, 6 goals, so he's getting a bit of football so he can develop. One of the sad ones, Dragon Dimitrov has left us for Arsenal. We signed for 7 million, have sold him for 8 plus 50% of next sale. I didn't want to sell him, but when Arsenal came in, straight away, I'm not happy, I want to leave, why are you rejecting a bid from Arsenal? There's no loyalty in players these days. There's no loyalty. And the next player look at is Sam H has gone to Junkeren on loan, get him some first team football. Lazar has gone off to Denmark on loan. We're going to get 175k on loan for him and see if we can move him on. He's not impressed me since he came in. He's taken up a foreign player slot. I made a mistake with a few panic buys, him being one of them. Christensen on loan. Strandos, a youngster who was no good, we've ended up selling. Morstad's gone to Stabæk for 1 million. We took a big loss on him. He was with us for basically 1 full season. Came in as defensive midfielder, 19 years old. I had faith he could be a useful player, but he just started complaining about not getting enough football, even though he was a backup player. So we've ended up letting him go. Took a loss, but selling him to another Norwegian club, I'm always happy to take that loss. Surbeck, another youngster who was never going to develop into something. And Hongerud has gone to odds for 1.8 million. This is one I was really disappointed by, because even though he only played 19 games in the 2 seasons with us, he was young at age 21, capped by Norway, but mentally and physically really, really good. And the fact he retrained as a wide centre-back, he was very useful as a rotation option. Really disappointed that we've ended up losing him. I would almost like to try to get him back if I can't find a replacement, because I've been looking for some new wide centre-backs and I'm really, really struggling at the minute. We will talk about that though. And finally, Sturber went to Hamcam on loan, only got 1 goal, 12 starts. He's just never achieved what I hoped he would achieve. Now looking at the ins, the first one is for Morse Niang, 18-year-old goalkeeper from Generation Foot, brought in with the sole intention of moving on for a future profit, 250k. Next one we're going to look at is Karol Kovac, comes in from the Slovak League, cost us 500k. I think there's a lot of potential there. I think there's a lot of potential, mentally fantastic, physically insanely good. I'm interested to see how he can develop, see what position he could maybe end up playing in. Maybe we end up moving him on because at 500k there's a lot of profit in him, but I do see potential. And finally, sold for 35 million. Signed back at 16.25 million 2 years later, but we had a 50% next sale on him, so we only actually paid 8 million for him. Coming in is over Benjamin Fossum. Now, he got a insane amount of assists in his final season with us, 12 assists in 20 games. And we've ended up bringing back now as a rotation option at left wing back. So we now have him and Steinskruger left wing back. I think it's one thing we massively were lacking in the first half of the season was depth at left wing back, and Fossum fixes that issue. I am also reaching him as a wide centre back. He has the ability to play there. He has the physical attributes to play there. I think it would be interesting if he can develop into a good wide centre back. Then both of them can be on the pitch at both times, but at the same time, we have two players who are insanely good at wide. At fullback, and then two players who can play wide centre back, which I'm really, really pleased with. So in terms of the competitions, how has it gone in the second half of the season? If you remember, we'd started the season fantastically well. So the league campaign continued as it started. So you wished for Sogndals. After that, complete domination in July. Only 2 points dropped in August. Only 2 points dropped in September. Only 2 points dropped in October, and then a couple of draws and a defeat to HamKam for beating Molde on the final day. This was one of our most comfortable seasons. Now, the HamKam defeat is one to mention. We had a youngster in central defence rotation, Fossum playing in attacking mid, and rotation up front. We put out a heavily rotated side because we had Champions League game a couple of days after. And we got smashed, and it was very upsetting because that was our only defeat of the season. That defeat cost us an unbeaten season, but we did finish 13 points clear of Stabæk in second place. Odds coming all the way down to 17th, by the way, who have been a regular in the top 2 and 3. But I think we have a decent look in top 5 going in Europe next season, to be honest with you. But we had a good season. And when you look at us in the league, our average rating, Fossum topped that. Goals, we had second highest with Krall. Now, Krall played 34 games in all competition starts, 26 goals, 17 in the league. I am currently, if I go on training, it must be after this save. We are currently working on his penalty taken because he has missed a couple of penalties this season. I'm not sure if he shows here. Penalties 4. I think that means he's missed 1. But in the Cup 2, missed 2. In the World Cup 1, missed 1. I think that's what that means. Either way, he's missed a few penalties. In terms of assists, Fossum with 23 assists this season in the league. If we go to his stats for the season, 21 starts in the league, 3 sub appearances, 23 assists. 23 assists. In the Cup, 6 games, 9 assists. Champions League, 2 assists. But he's been insane, and he's still not been capped or even been sniffed around by the Norwegian national team. Now, this is something I'm interested by. How are we doing possession-wise? So we are up at 60% now. We've always been around 56, 54. So we have a lot better possession now. This season is our first season using a much shorter passing tactic, working that ball into the box a lot more. 60%, but you can see Viking Stavanger at 64% with an 89% pass completion ratio. They are doing very, very well in terms of how they are holding on to that ball. In terms of goals scored, we did top that. 79 goals, 20 better than Bøder Glimt, who came in second place there. Defensively, compared to everybody else, we had the third best defensive record. We did concede less than we played, which is better than last season, with 29 goals conceded. Stabæk only conceding 26. That's interesting. That is interesting. Now, what I would say is we are massively looking towards improving our depth. If I go on the registration for the league, you can see we've only currently got registered 21 players. So we have 4 slots available. We also have 1 non-Norwegian slot available. Actually, if I go back to that, we can talk about that in a second. So one of the biggest things I've struggled with in the last 2 seasons is our non-homegrown slots, which you see here. maximum of 9 non-homegrown players. Now, I'm trying to make this more that if you are not in the starting 14 players, shall we say, so if you are not in the starting 11, you're one of the first subs. If you're not in that position, I want you to be guaranteed Norwegian. I don't want backups who are from Ghana, etc. And I say that because we've got Opoko here, who is from Ghana, 25. He's been with us since 2037. So he is closing him. He does have a couple of more years before he's a Norwegian citizen. And he is not even in our main bench. And he's taken up one of the foreign player slots. So the plan is to move him on. And that will free up a slot straight away. But really look over the winter to improve our depth in Norwegian players. So we have 4 slots available. I would like to potentially promote 1 or 2 from the youth team over the winter and bring in 1 or 2 more Norwegians. Probably a defender because we're going to lose Opoko. And just see what we can do in terms of improving that side of things. Next thing we're going to look at is the cup competition. So let's remove this and change it to the cup. So it was another very, very successful run in the cup. So again, we had 1 or 2 tough games, but again, the draw was nice to us. So we played Voss in the first leg before Stål Jopland in the second. Then Berda Glimt in the third round, which was our hardest game, I would say, before beating Lillestrøm away from home. We then played Frigg in the quarterfinals before picking up a game against Odds in the semis, and they obviously have had a weak season for them, finishing mid-table, before coming up against Tromsø in the final, where Kroll picked up 3 goals and Anthony with the 4th. Still feels like we've got a Brazilian in attacking mid now. We've called him Anthony instead of just Evans. But another cup. So we did the league and cup double, which has been fantastic in terms of boosting me up the rankings. You can see here in the English Hall of Fame, we are now 8th. Domestic titles 8 and domestic cups 3. You can see here 3 cup wins, 35, 41 and 40, 7 Eliteserien and 1 Post-Nord Division 1. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. We are closing down as well on Billy Nicholson and Herbert Chapman. So we could move into the top 5 or 6. I would say top 5 in terms of English managers in the next couple of seasons. We can be in there. If I go in terms of nation, in terms of as a manager in Norway, there's only Nils Arne Eggen ahead of us. I mean, that man won a fair amount. 14 top flight titles with Rosenborg, 6 cups, and 1 top flight title with Moss. But we are closing in on him. I mean, we do have a long way to go, but we are closing in on him. See how we can do there. In terms of continent-wise, we are quite a way off. But it is something we can look at aiming towards in the long run. So in terms of how the first team did, the biggest appearance maker was our goalkeeper, Nashheim. First season back for us, and really, really pleased to have him in goal. Amadou with 43 starts. He just continues. As a wide centre-back with dribbling a 5, I would prefer my wide centre-back to have better dribbling, but he is just insane. 190 appearances now for the club. He is a Norwegian citizen as well now. He's been with us for that long. And it's just, yeah, I can't speak highly enough of him. I mean, says he's unhappy. He's had an issue with lack of depth at left wing back. We've got the Norwegian national team left wing back in Fossum. And we've also got the Norwegian backup left wing back in Erik Steinskog, who is also very, very good. I don't think we have an issue left wing back. I really don't. Stop sulking. So top goal scorer for the season, Kroll, with 29 goals. But I think you got to give a shout out to Anthony Evans, the attacking midfielder side for 1.5 million from Chelsea. He's 24 years old. He's been with us this was his 3rd season at the club. 63 games, 23 goals now, with 13 coming this season, playing that attacking midfield strata from in the league, but 24 in all competition. 14 for Uldal on loan at Tromsø, by the way. He has been already moved ready for next season in the first team, which is nice because it means I don't forget to talk to you about him. But Sven Olav Veen Uldal, he was always a decent looking player, but never fantastic. But he's had a good season at Tromsø and just deserves a chance as one of our rotation options up front next season. And as I said about more depth in the Norwegian side of things, he does offer that. Bozic, you've got to give a shout out there. 14 goals from centre mid. I mean, you can't praise that man enough. Adebayo did get double figures with 11 goals. Not a world beater, only 6 goals in the league and 7 starts. 43 games for us, 12 goals. We overpaid, I think. We paid $6.5 million for him. And I think if I was offered it again, I wouldn't be doing that. And finally in double figures is Kyle from centre mid, who also... Did we overpay at $40 million? Probably. Do we have a player who just seems happy to be here all the time and has signed a new contract, which is going to be done at the start of next season? Yeah, and I think we've got a player who could be with us for the next 10 years. When bids come in, he doesn't batter an eyelid when I reject them, and he looks insanely talented, by the way. Now, in terms of assists, this is what I want to mention. Look at it. 40 starts in all competitions. 36 assists. Have we got the best assist maker ever to come through an academy? Like, normally you get these players who are insane assist creators, etc., but how often do they come through the academy? He's 22. He's been with us. This was his 6th or 7th season when it works out. 2, 4, 6. This was his 7th season at the club. His 7th season at the club. 160 league games. And he's also signed a new contract which will kick in for next season. And then 16 for Steinskog, 9 for Kroll, 9 for Bozic, Medda with 8 and 9 goals for someone who is a backup player now. But I think you've got to mention, he's a 1 in 3. Med has 49 goals in 141 games. He's a squad player contract. He's just insane. And when you go to information-wise, he has less than 2 years left before he will become a Norwegian citizen. So he is definitely a player I want to hold on to as long as we can. He's just a solid player. In the Norwegian league, he kicks ass. He really does kick ass, and he just plays very, very good football. So he's a player I absolutely love in this team. In terms of top man of the matches, it's Fosdal as well with 9. I honestly can't say enough about that man. We've looked really, really solid. Our tactic has continued to develop. Now, one thing I did want to mention is Sivertsen. So came in as a backup right wing back a couple of years ago now from odds for 2.7. We do have an agreement to sell him, but I think I'm going to try to wean him off that by giving him more football, because I would like to retrain him to help with our issue at wide centre back. To get more options in wide centre back, I'm thinking retraining him. He has all the attributes. He's 6 foot tall. I think he could make a really good option at wide centre back. Now, the reason I'm thinking that, if I go back to tactics, this will free up Christian Abdullahi to move into here, into defensive mid. And when you look at his attributes, he just fits that defensive midfielder even better than wide centre-back. Now, if I can make him as a ball-winning midfielder maybe on support, and the reason I'm thinking that is if we make our defensive midfielder a bit more of a defensive, then if Sivertsen comes into this wide centre-back role, we would make it on a support role. So he pushes in here, he drops back, the libero pushes on. I think it could work. It could maybe create more down this right-hand side with Fosdal getting all the assists and Sivertsen backing him up, supporting him, and just making us continue to look solid as a rock. Now, if we do make him a ball-winning midfielder, I wonder if the libero either needs to go to a support or the playmaker needs to drop to a deep line playmaker just to support around here where maybe the volante would step in normally. So these are the things I'm thinking. What would you do tactically when I'm telling you about my thoughts there? So, in terms of our youth team, how they've done this season, our youth team did win the league by 10 points. Back-to-back league titles. Are we standard dominate now? Our youth team, back-to-back league titles. I can click on this screen, but I won't show you the players. 16 years old, 16 years old, 17 years old. 3 Romanians are constantly go through the Eastern European nations looking for bargains. This year, we've had Serbians, we've had Serbians, we've had others. Slovakians. You think of Kral, our striker, but this time it was Romania who's popped out a couple of wonder kids, and we've picked them up. So we'll look at them in the next video. But our under-19s, we didn't have top goal scorer in the league. We didn't have top assists, but we did have players who put in a really good shift, worked really hard, and our under-19s were solid. I think one of the players to point out with 22 goals is Janssen, who is in around our first team, has signed a new deal which kicks in for next year. He has 7 in 24 for the first team, picked up from Stabæk for $500,000. I do think he can continue to develop. He's one of them players who we signed him at the start of last season, and he's still only 17. So I think he's one of them ones who he sits on your bench and you kind of forget how young he is. He's only 17. But when I look down, Anguilo, I'm looking at moving him on. That was again another one of them panic buys. But if I can get a deal which has a 50% next sale, etc., maybe he can push on elsewhere. But he's too old for the youth team now, and he's a foreign player who will not get in the first team. Kieta, I'm going to send out on loan. He has a couple of years left in his contract. I'm going to send him on loan trial with one of our feeder clubs, probably Junkeren, and just see if he can have a good season in Norway. Maybe we cash in on him after that. And the final one I want to point out is this kid here. I've given him a full-time contract now, Leif Roth Trete Ansen, and he looks decent, but he's only 5'9", and this is one of the things I was going to mention. Do we think we've got another defensive midfielder here, or maybe a libero? But either way, age 16, this is the end of his first full season with us, and I see something there. I do see something there. Maybe we need to look at a feeder club in the 3rd level for players like this. But at the same time, our youth team now is getting so good. Our youth staff are getting so good. We've actually got spaces for more coaches now. That's just changed recently. And also more physios. That's just changed as well. We can massively improve our youth team coaching then. And we can keep pushing on and keep improving and keep making ourselves better and better and better. You can see here, they are suggesting Jørn Hetland, who came through the academy, is ready for the first team. I don't see it, especially considering he doesn't play in a position we really need except a striker, and he can't finish. But 1.3 to 2.4 million might be worth a contract and then moving him on for a 50% next sale type thing. It's another option we can look at. But we will end this episode by having a look at how the rest of the Norwegian League went. So going down is we've got the playoffs, haven't we? Let me just skip her through. Yeah, we've got the playoffs. It looks like Asker's coming up. So going down is Stjørdals Blink, Sandefjord and Kongsvinger. Remember Kongsvinger in the early seasons when we went up? They had a world-class wonder kid striker. He never developed into anything. Coming up is Brann, who should never have gone down. And Junkeren, our feeder club, is coming up, so hopefully we can loan them a couple of even better quality players. And Asker are coming up. I do want to point out that whereas Ålesund, who in Europe last season cost us points in Europe, and our mid-table second tier side, European run whilst in the second tier. Going down is Ulkis, Sandnes, and Ranne. From the 3rd tier then coming up is Bryne, coming up, one of our local clubs, and also Rofos, because Mulder's B team and Brand's B team came 1st and 2nd. I do want to end by saying that I continue to think this save has been hindered by the fact that our B team never progressed. Our B team never got into the playable leagues, which has just been upsetting. But you live and learn. I do know in the future Builder Nations, I'm going to make sure we have a structure which is easier for developing young players. I feel like Norway has really hindered us, and also a club which the reserve team is playable. Because if we do go to a nation where the reserve league plays in the league structure anyway. But yeah, that's it for today's video. Hopefully you did enjoy the recap of this 2041 campaign. I want to thank you for watching, thank you for tuning in, thank you for continuing to support the series, and I will see you next time when we recap the 2041-2042 Champions League run. It's been a good one.